This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
Hey, welcome to today's episode of War Room Moments. I'm your podcast host, Jason Miller, and today I have Artie Leonard with us from Reliable Solar Solutions. Welcome, Artie.
Oh.
Good to have you on the show today. Artie and I have been colleagues and good friends for quite a while, and glad to have you on board. Why don't you give everybody a little bit of rundown, Artie, on what you do and what your superpower is?
Okay. Well, again, Artie Leonard, Reliable Solar Solutions. We're over here in Massachusetts. We specialize in residential, commercial, off-grid solar projects. My superpower is probably being a little bit creative within those, the category. Just an example, I've built electric boats and, solarized my golf cart. Anything that we can harness energy from the sun and not have to plug in is, I guess, that would be my superpower. Outside the box.
Yeah, outside the box is where it's at too. For sure. So leading into that, I mean, solar seems to be a pretty big topic right now, obviously, with leaving all the politics aside of things, right? What are you seeing the trends and how is solar shifting and shaping where we're going as far as, the fossil fuel solar war, all these things? Where do you see the trends taking us?
Well, let me start off in the small picture. We call it the solar coaster. So if you asked me that question this morning, the answer would be a little bit different in a small window, but at the 30,000 foot view, we're just heading to the point where whenever possible, wherever possible, we're going to use solar or some other type of quote unquote non-fossil fuel for our energy needs. I got a call, it was like a week and a half ago, about a gentleman who does wastewater treatment on small systems, like an individual hut in the middle of, who knows where. And what they were looking to do is power their pumps, because they have to move this wastewater, but they don't have an extension cord that runs for 60 miles to the nearest power outlet. So what they wanted to do was put together a little solar system with a battery so that they could pump this wastewater near to wherever it needs to go. So just from the big picture, like the big solar fields, right down to little projects like that, it all seems to entail the same equipment. It's solar and storage, meaning batteries or whatever that may mean, because there's a bunch of different ways you can actually store energy. So big picture, it's going to be everywhere. We can't stop it even if we try.
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting because here where I live, there's this big push for solar, but it's extremely difficult to actually get solar installed on your house. And I don't really understand all that. And I know every state's different and all these different things, but it's like they want solar, but then the power company doesn't want to work with the solar companies to get it done. And I mean, any insight on that? Why that is?
Yeah, well, that's the pain point, right? So everybody thinks that your pain point is to try to find somebody who wants solar and sell it to them. No, we can do that all day long. It comes on the back end through all the hurdles and hoops that we need to jump through. As far as like, do I have any insight as to why it happens or how we can navigate it? I think navigating it is you just have to be nimble. You just can't be rigid and say we're only going to do it this one way, because you've already sold the job. You might as well figure out how to get it installed. as far as dealing with the large companies, I mean, that a couple of years ago, we wanted to kick off in Florida, but for various reasons, it didn't get off the ground, which now it's looking like we're fortunate because the net metering rules, which means the utility, when you overproduce power, the utility is not going to give you credit on your bill like they had been. So that's called net metering. Why is the utility pulling back on that? The argument for it is, you had said some people have solar and some people don't. The utility says, well, there's a cost to having the solar systems backfeed the grid. And unfortunately, the people who don't have solar have the burden of paying for that. Because if you produce enough power and you backfeed the grid and you have no electric bill, you don't have to pay for any of the infrastructure, the lines or anything like that. They've got to find somebody to bill for that. And it goes on the people who actually have an electric bill, so I can see both sides. There's got to be a solution. I don't get involved with the politics of that because I certainly can see that it isn't fair to people who don't have solar. But then again, why should we stop a whole industry for a short period of time? Because it's not going to be forever. You and I both know like I say, it's not going away. And in Florida, you get sunshine all the time. Why wouldn't you find a way to harness it and use it? The other thing on the the flip side of the coin is these utilities own massive solar fields. So even though they're fighting against it, they're in the game. So take that for what it's worth.
That's interesting I guess I didn't know that, but it's interesting that they're fighting the own thing the same thing they've embraced themselves, right? So,
right. Well, I mean, it's a great deal for them, right?
Well, yeah, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So instead of having buy energy on the open market, they're producing their own.
Yeah, it's pretty smart, actually.
Yeah, but, I mean, and the other thing is the utilities down there fought solar on a large scale for residential until they could power up the way they wanted to get their portfolio, so to speak, of energy.
Yeah. Wow. So what's the big difference between, because I'm seeing there's a lot of conversation and talk about, solar versus windmill versus all these different spaces, right? So, I mean, how does one know maybe I should just plop a freaking windmill in my yard because I get a lot of wind versus whether or not you should, I mean, cost benefit analysis wise, does it really matter?
Well, I'm gonna start with a windmill doesn't take up a big footprint per se in 2 dimensions, but in 3 dimension it does. But they produce a hell of a lot of power. They certainly do. But I'm going to give you an example. So, like on my sailboat, you've got solar panels, and we had a wind turbine. All right. So which one produced the most power? Now they're on a small scale, right? But the wind turbine, potentially, if the wind is howling at 35 knots, can produce as much as those solar panels are in the sun. But the wind's got to be howling. It makes a heck of a lot of noise. And you've got moving parts that with heavy stresses relative to the size of the unit. So what's that mean? Eventually something's going to break, right? So I have something we always talk about. I always talk about to my customers is I hate service calls. And they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, I don't want to go out and fix something that if we could have done it right the first time, why didn't we? Right. So that's why the equipment that we choose as a company is always the best that we can get. Now, is it perfect all the time, 100%? No, it's not. But at least we're trying to make an intelligent decision on the front end, so that on the back end, we're not using up all that valuable time fixing something. So that's my point when it comes down to these wind turbines. I mean, they break. I mean, they absolutely break. It's a constant maintenance issue. Think about a solar panel. What does it do? What moving part is there? There's none.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
It's passive. Now, somebody could say, well, what happens if the sun doesn't come out for 5 days? You know, I live in New England. It happens all the time. You know, so, well, it's still light out. The sun is up. It's just that the clouds are covering it. So your production capacity is lower. But with a wind turbine, when the wind doesn't blow. Well, the good thing about with a wind turbine, when the wind doesn't blow, you're not breaking anything, right?
Right,
But
right.
yeah, so, but you know, wind turbines, I totally get it. It's just a maintenance issue, you know,
Yeah.
and a noise issue, and and I know they talk about solar fields, which I'm not a big fan of solar fields. I just think if you've got a rooftop, use the rooftop. Don't cut down the woods and do all that other stuff. Or if you got a landfill, cover it. If you got if you have a water source that cannot be used by anybody, it's just for municipal water, cover that thing. Put a floating solar array on top of there. Minimizes your evaporation, right? It's space that you're not using anyways. Cover it. You know what I mean? So as long as it's not a park around it or anything like that. But yeah. So to me, solar can be just about anywhere. Wind turbines can't. Quick example: my hometown in Fairhaven. There was a chunk of land that we were landlocked, that we owned, and 9 acres. It's on a little river there, but there's really nothing I could do for it. And you know, I was kind of a knucklehead back then, so I'm like, why pay taxes on something I can never use? Gave it to the town. The town had 2 of these windmills erected on that lot, and then another one a little bit further south. And it was a big make to do in town. The people that didn't live close to it loved it. The people that lived next to it hated it. Right. So
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like I know I kind of got down in the weeds there, but they're both good. If you could eliminate the downside of the wind turbines, of the noise, the maintenance, and putting them somewhere where they're not unsightly. I get it. And solar is easy. You can put these little microgrids everywhere. So
right. Well, yeah. So that's the interesting thing is, you know, solar companies everywhere, right? But what I like is kind of what you do a lot different is this like customized thing, right? Versus it's a part of what you do. It's not everything, but what's really neat is, I think, like you spoke about, outside the box, right? So talk a little bit about some of those outside the box projects that you've done, because that's really what I want the audience to hear, because I think that's really what people need, is those kind of solutions too.
Well, for me, outside the box, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do, I'm not formally educated in, as far as going to, 4 years to learn how to build an off-grid system in this one particular part of the country. It's taking various components and techniques and kind of marrying them together. So as far as why we can do that is, I think, because we're a smaller company and we're nimble, and plus I'm the boss. I can do what I want, right? So yeah. So even before I got into solar, back 2008, it was like, wow, I really like the concept of being able to produce power where you really never had it before, unless you had a generator or a utility. So, and then now with understanding all these electric motors that we can use and things of that sort, it opens up ideas. Like when I built my electric outboard motor for my pontoon boat, everybody was like, well, why would you do that? Well, the reason why, sometimes you start building things because frustration happens. So the snow's gone. You pull the cover off the boat. You clean it all up. You spend 2 days getting the thing ready. You make sure the battery's charged. You make sure you get gas in it. And it's a beautiful day. You put the boat in the water. You turn the key, and the engine doesn't start. It turns over, but it doesn't start because we use ethanol gas, and I don't care what stabilizer you use, it's going to gum up your carburetors. I got so fed up with that. And so my theory was, it's a pontoon boat. I'm not going fast. I just want it to go, right?
Mhm.
When you turn a key and nothing happened, it's the gasoline motor wasn't starting. I said, all right, let's do this. I'm gonna put some solar on the canopy. I'm gonna find a dead outboard motor. So I found a 60 horse outboard motor, took the power head off, which is the gas internals,
Mhm.
and built a whole electric system inside the cowling. So when you put it on, it looks like a gas motor. And then I got a lot more batteries on it than I ordinarily would. I would have had one, but now I have 5 batteries on it, on the boat. Guess what? I think it's 5 years we've had that. I think it's going on a 6th year. Every time you turn the key, you don't hear anything, but it works every time. Okay. So so we have enough solar on there to make sure the batteries are topped off pretty much all the time. I mean, if I went around the lake, we live on a lake over here. It's 3 miles by a mile wide, so it's not huge, but we can go up to the north end of the lake. We can go down to the south end of the lake and not run out of power. I don't go. I'm only going maybe 5 knots. I'm not going super fast, but I didn't design it that way. So everybody's like, well, what happens if you're out there at night? I said, well, I'm not out there at night too much, and I probably would think about it because I don't have a ton of storage on board, because at the time I only used lead acid batteries, and the technology just in the last 5 years, the lithium ion phosphate batteries, the lifeboat batteries, have become affordable. It would have cost me $25,000 to do it a few years ago. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, as long as I've got electricity, I can go whenever. And what happens if the sun isn't out? Well, I'm not usually on the lake when it's a crappy day, so
Right.
yeah. So yeah, so that's just one of the ideas. The year before that, I have an electric golf cart with 48 volts. I took the roof off of it. If you know those plastic roofs that are on there, I took the
Mhm.
roof on it and put a solar panel on it, and put a little charge controller in, put it in the 48-volt system. I haven't plugged that thing in 6 years. And we use it in the wintertime. I just knock the snow off of it. And when the lake freezes, we'll drive it down there, and it's our little buggy. I don't get as great range in the wintertime, but it works, you know.
Right.
The off-grid package, I've got some buddies, that up in Maine, and we go hunting up there and whatever, but a few of them, they want, there's no electricity where they're at other than what they can produce. So they've got the standard generator, but now built some off-grid systems. I've built some, I shouldn't say I've mocked them up here locally
Mhm.
with these people and showed them how to put it together, and then give them all the components with some drawings and a couple of phone calls and text messages, and they go up and put it together and plug it in, and they're amazed when it works, right? So, but I mean, it worked here, why wouldn't it work there? I just got a call today, guy's going up on April 17th up to his cabin way up in Maine, and he's just sent me a picture. He's like, hey, is there anything that we want to tweak? He's had this the system for 2 years now. The first year it was half the size, and he owns a cabin with his uncle, and his uncle was a little miffed because the first system I designed for him didn't he couldn't run his Keurig. So I pretty much land based them. They're in a cabin in Maine, right? They're probably covered in muds and wood ticks and everything else, and he can't use a Keurig. I'm like, don't you have a coffee pot? Yeah. So that wasn't on the list of things I had to power when I designed the system. So
Right.
yeah.
That's
But
funny.
anyways, I know
Well,
that's a long answer, but so these are
yeah.
the type of things that we can do, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the side of solar that really intrigues me is the more custom outside of the box thinking of what are like the everyday things that we use that you could incorporate solar into? Not just on your roof and all that kind of stuff, but what are all the everyday things that we use that we could be powering stuff with the sun? And
Right.
you know,
Well, think about this,
that
Jason. Think about this. Military. There was
yeah,
times you had to risk life and limb to get some big diesel generator in a spot where, you know, it's hairy, where you're using a shotgun to kill an ant. All you needed was a little bit of power. You didn't need this
yeah,
super power station, right?
right, right.
So wouldn't it have been cool if they could have just dropped in every day? Let's say they were producing power somewhere else, and they could have just dropped in small storage units where you guys could have had lighting, operate your essentials and your handheld radios and everything, and power them up, and then take them where you need to go, right?
Mhm.
And I would think that dropping a little package of power versus this big energy system and then diesel all the time would be a lot easier. So just things like that, because the thing that we get out of solar is not like, oh, isn't it cool? We get energy from it, right?
Right,
So
right,
think about places that you don't have energy now, but you're like, wow, I wish I could charge this device while I was here. You
right.
know, that's where we can take this big thing and just whittle it down to the small and make conveniences for people that they didn't have before, right? And how cool is it if there's a drawing in a package, it gets sent to you, you say, man, I don't even know how to use a screwdriver, but you just went, plug this in, plug this in, look at the drawing, and you're done,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's
There's a
that's the packages that
the
I'd like to be put together.
yeah, there's a ton of value in that, and it's probably a market that's underserved, I would think, to a degree. I would think. I mean, I know there's a lot of places that you can go buy this garbage on, and
Mm,
hopefully it lasts for a year.
yeah. Well, that's
But
that's the thing is, right?
mm,
Can you make it simple enough and make it quality enough that you don't have to always feel the phone calls where this piece is garbage. All right, your instructions, I don't understand them. Can you simplify this enough to get it into enough people's hands where they can do it themselves,
right,
right? And
yeah,
and they know they might have spent more than some of the cheaper low end stuff. They might have spent more, but they have the wherewithal to put it together.
yeah,
Um, because realistically, I mean, that's my biggest fear is we put these packages together on a larger scale, and we don't do a good enough job of putting together a package and instructions that everybody can follow, right?
mhm,
So just because I can follow it, somebody else might not really picture it the right way. So we'd have to run this through enough people who learn in different ways and see things in different ways, so that we just cover all the bases and get this stuff out, right?
yeah. It's like the third grade level education
Yeah,
type
and
of
right, and even more than
approach.
that, yeah, like some people need to see it, some people
Yeah,
need to read it, some people can look at the box and they're so smart they can figure it out. So
right, right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, part of this whole concept of this podcast is, you know, sharing something with a young CEO or a CEO that may be struggling, so on and so forth. We have all this institutional knowledge. So, what would be a business struggle you would share that you went through in your earlier parts of your business, or hell, today for that matter, whatever you want to share, but how'd you overcome it?
Okay. So I would say that um the ones that really uh damage you the most don't always just go away 100%, because a lot of these things are self-induced, if you will. And I would say it all comes down to um, managing your time in so that you're keeping the priority, and I struggle with that because I get sucked into some things that I shouldn't be involved in. And it takes me away from the number one priority is producing a product we can sell and selling it, right? So if I'm not in the mode of providing the service that we provide, meaning you gave me a call, let me put that design together and get it back to you as quick as possible so we can have a conversation and see if it's a fit for you or not. That's where we earn a living, right? So if I get caught up in like right now we're caught up in a meter change. I won't get too crazy about it, but every solar produces power. Certain government entities need to know how much power is being produced. So they want these meters to report somewhere. Well, guess what? They used to have a cell card in there that ran on 3G, and now they're shutting off 3G, like the cell phone stuff, right? Now it's all 4 and 5G. So all these devices that used to be automated need to be swapped out, but we can't get them till, next year. So realistically, it's not, the ball's not in my court, but I got sucked into it. Finally, the other day, I said, the company that sells these credits and does these reporting, I finally said, oh, they can take care of that. And I sent it off to them. The meter company who's going to sell these meters to the people, I sent that off to them. So I got it off my plate, but I got sucked into it for, not 2 weeks ongoing, but I got sucked into it. And I'm like, bang, what am I doing? So that was, for me, that's, if I was going to share with a new CEO, business that takes off, because sometimes you're just thinking about how can I create business? That's the fun part, when you get business and then it's right there and you can't grab it because you're too caught up in something else. That's the frustration point. And I think we all have it. I need to get slapped in the face, every couple times a year to remember that I need to keep the priority. So yes, if you're a new CEO, once you get business, find out what's pulling you away. It's usually because you're not managing your time. You're not staying in the box you should be in, right? Past that project, that assignment, whatever it is, find somebody who can take care of it, even if you have to pay them, and you get back to doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Time is the most precious thing we have, right? And it's like, I always tell people, if you have even 3 or 4 tasks a day that you're doing that you can offload and have somebody else do it, and if that just happened to cost you $5,000 a month, you're nuts for not doing it, right? Because if you can't make that back by reallocating that time, well, then you've got some other problem
right,
that you need to address too, right? So
and you will have those times, right?
Oh yeah,
well, especially in my business, the like I said, whatever was true this morning is different in the afternoon, So.
right. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And to kind of start closing things up here, I always like to ask this last question. That is, if you could have had anybody on this call, dead, alive, mentor, family, whoever that could be, that you always had that one question you wanted to ask, and they could be here today, who would that be and what would the question be?
All right, just one question, business related or not?
Whatever, doesn't matter.
Okay. This is going to kind of go, it's going to kind of go sideways on you and mess up your whole podcast.
That's okay. Go
so I'll think this will sound sad, but I think there's some humor in it. So my pops passed away a year and a half ago, right? So it's sudden. I mean, it's tragic. Truly it is. But if I would like Pop to be on here so that I could ask him, because we would always badger each other back and forth about who's going to catch the biggest fish, who's going to do this and who's going to do that. We were supposed to go hunting in Ohio at my brother's place out there, and so it was going to be a bet. You know what I mean? Like Pup was probably going to have to buy dinner or whatever. And I say Pup because I would ask Pup right now, hey Pup, who's going to get the biggest deer?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, brother. Good stuff. That's a meaningful question to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just a fun game but yeah. I'll give you some background story with some of the stuff that I used to piss my father off about.
That haven't we all?
Yeah. Well, in a fun way. The other stuff, I was too afraid of him to try to have him catch me and get mad at me about other things.
Right. Well, great. Well, hey, Artie, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they come to talk solar to you and your company?
Yeah. Okay. So there's some other things in the work, but primarily we've got a website. It's reliablesolar.solutions.com. There's a contact form on there. If you want to reach out directly to me, you can reach out at Artie, ARTIE, at reliablesolar.solutions.com. And I don't know, should I give out my phone number? The funny thing is I use my own cell phone. I'll tell you what, just do the email, because I don't know what kind of spam can come in on my cell phone now.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Well, hey, Artie, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's a little later your time. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Know you're busy as hell. And thanks for being here.
All right, Jason. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you all for listening and or watching this episode of War Room Moments. I am your podcast host, Jason Miller. Remember, dream it, believe it, and achieve it. It's Jason Miller signing off.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.